Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to our session about how news publishers are enticing consumers to get news on their own platforms. My name is Hanaa Tameez. I am a reporter for the Nieman Journalism Lab based at Harvard University. Our publication focuses on innovation in the news media industry and how journalism survives and thrives on the internet. It's no secret to anybody, as you all know since you're here, that journalism faces various challenges on various fronts. But at Nieman Lab, we are fundamentally optimistic about journalism's future. And that is because we get to talk to phenomenal journalists like our panelists today who are doing the difficult work of getting information to people who want it, and the especially difficult work of getting it to the people who need it but might not want it. So from social media to streaming services to online shopping, we know that the competition that news publishers face for audience attention is only getting steeper. And our panelists today come from three very different news outlets, but are all doing the work day in and day out to capture audiences' attention on their own platforms and to get them to eat at home rather than eating junk food or takeout, TikTok. So we're going to get into the strategies that they've deployed, the business cases for those strategies, and the challenges ahead. But I will let them briefly introduce themselves. So we'll start with Anna Bucks from The Economist.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here. So my name is Anna Bucks. I'm the executive producer of video at The Economist. In April 2024, we launched a vertical video carousel on The Economist app. And this was with a subscriber-first strategy. And the idea was to increase retention on the app. The Economist is an incredibly old publication. We're 182 years old. And so videos were essentially an opportunity for us to increase our subscriber base and also to kind of future-proof our brand. And the other thing that we have done recently, in fact, we announced it just yesterday, is that on October the 9th, we're going to be launching the Economist Subscriber. These are twice weekly discussion shows online, which are going to give access to the Economist's top editors. We'll have discussion and debate, and also interviews with high-profile, big-name guests as well.
Mariluz?
Hi. Hi, thank you, everyone. First of all, I want to thank today IMED for having me. It's my first time in the festival. It's so nice. And of course, Hanaa for preparing this amazing panel. Okay, I like to present myself. I'm Peinado, Head of Digital Strategy at El País. El País is the leading Spanish newspaper. We have a subscription model for 5 years now. I'm in charge of initiatives of digital transformation of the newsroom and also specialized in new online products. But of course, I'm a journalist, and I think that is very important because I think that we need journalists, more journalists in these key roles to work with all the parts of the companies. And today I'm going to especially to present El País Express. It's one of our latest projects. It was launched in May last year, 2024. And we could say there is a new way to discover El País, the most important stories of the day. We always say, if you have just 5 minutes, you need to know that. So when we started working on it, we wanted to build a new habit in our readers, and also we try to combat the news avoidance.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jason Koebler. I'm the co-founder of 404 Media, which is a journalist-owned tech publication. We all used to work at Vice Media, the 4 of us, and we started to launch a new publication from scratch. And when we first launched, we realized, like, hey, we're actually doing pretty well. Like, we're getting good scoops, we're getting good traffic. I think that our history, like in digital media, we were really obsessed with chasing traffic, chasing page views, but we started to realize that we were getting a lot of readers, but not so many subscribers. And we also noticed that a lot of like AI spam factories were ripping off our stories the second that we published them. So we thought about like, how do we convert people? How do we get people like drive-by traffic to actually subscribe to us? How do we create a readership that we can reach directly rather than relying on social media algorithms? We'll get more into it, but basically we begged. We did like a really transparent post called "We Need Your Email Address." That was a 3,000-word reported piece about what was happening to our articles. We would spend months working on something, we would publish it, and 5 minutes later, 10 different AI content farms would rip it off and republish it, and because these websites had existed for longer, people were finding them before they found our stuff, and so our work was more or less going in the trash. And so, I mean, we launched a strategy where basically you had to sign up to read our articles, and it worked really magnificently.
Great. Okay, so I would love to hear from you all, sort of like, what was the moment that you realized that you needed to start bringing audiences back to your own platforms? I think people are used to finding stories on social media, on Apple News, on aggregators, in all of these different ways, but like, how did you sort of, one, come up with the ideas that you just talked about, but also how did you realize that now was the time to do it?
Should I go first? So The Economist launched a video department in the mid kind of 2010s. So it's been running for a while. And when we first started making videos, we were putting them on YouTube, and they were doing well. We got millions of views. We've at the moment got 3.5 million subscribers, and we had really good engagement. And then in 2022, we launched on TikTok, and we launched a video on Instagram as well. And again, they were doing very, very well, but we weren't serving our subscribers. Our videos were not going on our app. And we realized that this was ridiculous because we were giving this content away, but we weren't able to make it for the subscribers, who subscribe to The Economist. So in 2024, that was when we decided to kind of rethink what we were doing. We had been making quite a lot of landscapes, sort of 10-minute videos for YouTube, and we decided to pivot. And instead, we started making sort of 2 to 3 minute videos that were vertical, that were short form. Our amazing product team built us a carousel for the app, and they used the kind of Instagram, TikTok style for it, so that it felt kind of intuitive for our subscribers on how you would engage and how would you consume short form vertical video. So that was in 2024. We built the carousel. Since then, we have also launched a standalone video place on our app as well, and we have a video home as well. So it's kind of getting bigger and bigger. And then I guess this kind of launch of Insider, which the Economist Insider, these twice weekly discussion shows, is kind of taking that a step further. It's a premium product. It's specifically for subscribers. You have to be a subscriber to get access to it. And that's very important for us to kind of bring people back to our app.
Yeah, I remember this very vividly because I was walking my dog and I had a panic attack essentially, where an existential breakdown where we had spent months working on this article about child sexual abuse material being sucked up into large language models, open source large language models, and artificial intelligence. It was an incredibly, incredibly difficult story to report, both like emotionally, legally, logistically, all of the above. It took us maybe 8 months to do. We published it, and like I said, I believe it was a website called World News Today, which was being run somewhere in Eastern Europe. Ran it through an AI content spinner, changed a lot of the quotes, changed a lot of the facts, but included our names and our reporting in it. And when I searched for the article, it was the first thing that showed up in Google News, and ours didn't show up anywhere. And that story performed well, but I just started thinking, like, this is a major problem. This is a major problem for us. The days of us being able to log on, tweet something, and walk away and get people to come to our website are over. We have a fracturing of social media. We have a fracturing of Google News. We also this was before sort of like the AI snippets and things like that, but we could sort of start to see that happening. And so it was about 6 months after we launched, and we were growing, but we were growing very slowly. And so I just had this moment, and my colleagues had this moment where we said, if we don't like aggressively move people from social media platforms that we don't control to platforms that we do control, we're going to die. This business is not going to work, and we're not going to have jobs anymore. And so we wrote this article.
Mariluz?
In our case, 2020 was a turning point because with the launch of the subscription model, we had to make a lot of changes. Of course, with the big Facebook change of algorithm in, I think it was 2017, we have prepared more our brand. And for example, in 2017, I used to work in a website from El País called Bern. It was specialized in social media, and at that time we had around 70% of traffic, of social traffic. So of course we lost it. We have been working on direct traffic and brand for years before the launch of the subscription model. And in 2020, we also, of course, we started with the paywall, but we also made a new design of our website. We unify our graphic design, and we made a very strong bet for direct traffic. And that's the moment. You have to organize even the workflows to make your direct traffic increasing, and sometimes forget other traffic sources.
Okay, great. So all of your features very different between a vertical video tab in the Economist app, an email sign up on 404 Media's pages on your stories, and El País Express as a brief way to summarize the day's stories and get smarter faster, right? But tell us about sort of how these strategies have worked out so far. What has the audience response been like? How have people been using these things?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it completely transformed our business. I think that writing about the internet and writing about open source technology and things like that, we really were reticent to try to put in a paywall or any sort of wall. But we started to realize that we desperately needed one because we were having trouble reaching people again and again. And so for us, the change was almost overnight. We had, when we launched, maybe 5,000 free email subscribers on our list. It was like nothing I'd ever seen. Like, we published the article, we put up the paywall, we explained why we needed people's email addresses. The next morning we had tripled the number of people that we had. It was like I had all these paid subscribers in my inbox. Like, it basically took our business from being like, oh, maybe this will work someday, to being like, oh, it's definitely going to work. Like, this is now a sustainable thing. And what we've learned is that, you know, over time, like, we've grown very rapidly because of this, and because we're able to reach people directly. Like, as we grow more, we start to grow faster, because right now our biggest growth vector is word of mouth from our subscribers and evangelism from our subscribers. And I think that we really expected a backlash. I hate paywalls. I don't like logging into things, but I think by explaining why we were doing it and why we felt like we had to, we've really had like people evangelize for us. You know, we see on Blue Sky or on Mastodon or on Twitter, people saying like, I don't want to click through this, it's a paywall. And people will share that explanation that we did, being like, no, subscribe to them, support them, they're independent journalists, blah, 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 and it's awesome.
Yeah, you have your audience is your own advocate.
Exactly.
Mariluz, what about you?
Okay, the strategy of El País Express is very close to the strategy of empowering our app, because app is also very important for us, for our direct traffic, our readers, almost not our readers, our subscribers live in our app. They consume a lot of page there. So we are working a lot in our app, but as I said before, we have right now more than 400,000 subscribers, and we have many different types of subscribers. And when you have more and more subscribers, you have to differentiate their profiles. And we have one profile of subscribers who pay every month, but they have limited time during weekdays, but they want to be informed. And maybe during weekends, they can read a lot of news, but not during weekdays. So we thought that El País Express, with just between 5 and 8 stories every day, it's just one edition every morning at 7 a.m., and it took around 7 minutes to have the headlines and to be informed with the basic. It was a good answer for them. So it's been a good project, a good initiative to try to retain those kind of subscribers who maybe are not all of our subscribers. Of course, we have a lot of different kind of profiles. We have those who read everything, those who become subscribers just for one interview, or those who become subscribers because our brand. But El País Express is a good solution for those who have limited time, but he want to be informed.
Yeah, it's worked out very well. I think The Economist is very old, so and it was a print as a print publication for a very long time. So introducing, we have podcasts, but also video. I think introducing these is obviously a change, but we've been really pleased with how high the engagement rate has been. I think the average completion rate on our videos is always above 50%. Sometimes it's kind of 80 or 90%. If you know what completion rates like on social media videos, that's incredibly high. We also find that subscribers watch multiple videos in one sitting. They're not just coming to watch one, they're watching multiple, which I think is what's been very encouraging for us launching Economist Insider. Our subscribers really want to engage with our journalists, with our editors through video. So that's something we found really interesting. We do still publish on social media, and I think one thing that we've had to consider is, what does that strategy look like? How do we continue to publish on social media? What do we choose to put on there? We see social media as kind of brand recognition. It's about kind of future-proofing this brand for a generation who may not subscribe at the moment, but we're hoping in the future they will, because they'll say, oh, I watched this video on Instagram, and the Economist made this amazing video that I saw on Instagram. I'm going to subscribe, when I earn enough money or whatever to pay for it. And so that for us is really important. It's about getting our brand out there. So yeah, we're very pleased with what's happened.
Okay, great. So Mariluz, I want to start with you. What were the challenges in implementing your strategy? I mean, it's a question for everybody, but I'll start with you, Mariluz.
Okay, it was a quite ambitious plan, product from the beginning, with a lot of different parts of the companies, of the areas working together, and that's really nice, but that's also very challenging. We were, first of all, we were studying what kind of reader and subscribers could use this new project, this new initiative. And after that, we were looking for something similar in other media. We didn't find something exactly similar. Some apps could choose the editor picks, for example, but they don't explain news in 150 words. And that was also important for us, because we didn't just want to say people to, hey, that's important news. No, we want also that's important and why that's important. So that was really challenging, and it was a lot of parts of the company working on it. And also we had some technical issues, because as I said before, El País Express is mainly thought to be read in the app. So when you develop something for the app, you have to invest a lot in the app and also in the website. You can, of course, you can consult it in the website, but it's not the same. The user experience is much better in our app, and it's better for engagement. And we had to work very, very hard because we wanted that readers knew that El País Express is part of El País, but it's a different, it's not the homepage. There is just one edition every morning. It's a different navigation. When you are in the homepage of El País, you are scrolling down, and in El País Express is a lateral swipe. And also we have different format of pictures. So it was very different in the format, and something that could seem minor, but it's not at all for a newspaper like El País, that it was founded 49 years ago. We had to think about a lot about what kind of explicative language we use, because sometimes we are very strict. Because and we are legacy media, and sometimes it's not very easy to change the tones or to change the headline. And El País Express had a different language with bullet points, more question, more answer, more explicative language, and that is a huge cultural change for in a newsroom like mine.
I think that's something that we relate to. I think one of our challenges was how do you retain the Economist identity, the Economist brand in short form video, especially in a kind of 2 to 3 minute video. I mean, a lot of our articles go into a lot of detail. Our subscribers come to us for kind of in-depth analysis. And so for us, it was like, how do we translate that? And how do we keep the nuance and keep the analysis and keep the depth in a short video? So I think that was something that we definitely kind of sat down and tried to think about at the beginning. At the moment, we're kind of very comfortable with what we publish and how much detail we have, but it's always something that we're kind of learning from, something that kind of changes over time. And I think one of the things that we were very kind of cognizant of was that we wanted to go for quality over quantity. There's a lot of publishers who publish huge amounts of video. They really sort of play to the social media algorithm, publishing kind of sort of 10, 20, 30 videos a day. And we were very clear we didn't want to do that. So we published 5 videos a week, and each one of those has a huge amount of analysis and kind of in-depth journalism in it. Just on kind of other challenges, I think one of us was the technical challenge, I guess. Redesigning an app in order to have a kind of video carousel on it. And I've talked a bit about making sure that it was sort of intuitive for people who already consume short-form vertical video on their phone. But obviously, we have subscribers who are maybe slightly older, who maybe don't use Instagram, don't use TikTok. So one of our challenges was how do we incorporate that, and will it make sense to somebody who maybe doesn't use TikTok? So that was definitely something we had to kind of consider.
Yeah, I think thankfully ours was very easy to implement. The technology was built into our CMS, which is called Ghost. The biggest challenge for us was just continually explaining to new people who encountered our website what we are, why this existed, and why it's worth signing up to us. And so like in the little interstitial that you get when we ask you for your email address, we do link back to this piece that I mentioned where we explained why we have it. I think the other thing is soon after we launched it, we got a lot of new subscribers and signups, but our traffic plummeted like precipitously, which is really scary. But what we found was people were coming, seeing the wall, which is at the very top of the article, and bouncing off immediately. And the solve to that is we now, when we publish an article, the wall is not there immediately. The article is available sort of free and clear for a little while, and we sort of monitor how it's doing, and then we add the wall, and we usually add it, deeper into the piece. And I think that we're probably losing some signups there, but I think we're catching like a wider audience by using that strategy. And so it's been a lot of trial and error as to where to put the wall in the article, why, like which articles to do it on, when to do it, how to share it. And then also at first we were very precious about, well, this article is now walled, so let's not share stuff from behind the wall on social media, which was very stupid, but I never worked at a place that had a wall before. And we eventually realized that this didn't really matter, that people consume content totally differently on different platforms. And so, we would give away all of the good stuff like on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter, but it didn't really seem to impact, whether that article or that piece of reporting was a success overall.
Yeah, I want to come back to you, Jason, right now too about what have you all learned about your audiences? All of your respective strategies you've had implemented now for about at least a year, right? So tell me about what you've learned about your audiences in that time, and if you can also share, have your audiences changed and in what ways?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we are a subscriber-funded publication. We do have some ads, but very few. And so our goal is to get people to pay us eventually. And we think that we're doing good journalism, and we think it's worth paying for. And from the outset, we thought, well, people will come to us and they'll decide whether to pay or they won't. And we learned that's really, really not the case, that people sign up for our free newsletter. They get a lot from our free newsletter. Like once they give us our email address, we start sending them good articles in their inbox. And we find that it's very critical to build that free email list before having people convert. And so, I mean, this isn't rocket science, but we're journalists. We weren't like data analysts prior to doing this. We sort of were doing trial and error. And so, we learned that you kind of have to win people over time. And doing that on social media is really hard in an algorithmic feed world where people might follow you on Instagram, but they might not see your stuff. They might see every 7th post. Whereas if we have a really good article, a really good investigation, we can now reach people directly from that. And we find that converts to paying, which is ultimately, our goal is to do impactful work, but for the business, we find that growing that free list has really, really helped with our paid subscriber list.
Anna, what about you?
So one of the things that we wanted to work out was kind of how long a video should be, I think. And so that's something we've kind of been trying and sort of trialing. We started out, they were quite long, sort of 4.5 minutes, and they've gradually got a bit shorter. And so that's been really interesting. I think one of the things that we've been quite surprised about is that subscribers who engage across multiple formats, so people who come to our app and watch videos and also listen to podcasts, are more likely to retain their subscriptions. So it's the kind of the most engaged across topics, but also across formats are kind of our subscribers who constantly come back to us. So I think that's been a kind of really useful learning point. And I think that's also helped with the launch of Economist Insider, because it shows there's a real appetite for consuming our journalism across multiple formats. And with this long form kind of discussions, I think that's really going to heighten that.
In my case, I have learned that almost everyone at some moment want to read shorter. And you have to be, I think we have to be convinced that there are not just, a reader can be different kind of readers. It depends of the moment of the day or the moment of the week even. So sometimes heavy users also read El País Express, and we have to forget that idea that just young people want to read shorter, and I think that more explicative journalism sometimes is better journalism for every reader, every reader, sorry. That's for me, and also for the culture of El País, it's one of the most important things that I have learned of this project.
So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about money. All of your publications have your respective varying access of like free access to your journalism, but none of your journalism is free to make. And so I want to hear about how these strategies have been helpful to the bottom line and how they've been incorporated or helpful in your overall business strategies as well.
Well, I have some figures because Hanaa was very insistent and told us, please give some figures. So, as I said before, for us, direct traffic is very important. I'm sorry. Okay, here. Roughly
That's okay, no worries.
50% of our readers visit directly El País home. So that's, I think, is good news. We are not at all dependent of social. Our social traffic right now is around 5%. And we are not so dependent of Google Discover than other Spanish media. But regarding El País Express, it's been very, very useful in two ways. First, to improve the engagement, according GfK, the official Spanish media measurement, the number of sessions to the application to the app of El País have increased in the last year from the beginning of El País Express. And also, it's been very useful to wake up our sleeper subscribers. You know, this kind of subscribers who pay their subscription, but they don't use it, and maybe one day they are going to abandon us. And around 20% of our sleeper subscribers have read El País Express during the past month. So we think that's good news also for engagement, but also for subscribers.
What about you, Jason?
Yeah, I mentioned it completely changed our business, like almost literally overnight. I think that when we launched this, this was back in February 2024, so we've had it up for about 18 months now. I think we had about 1,000 paid subscribers at that time. We hit 2,000 in the month of February within like a few days of publishing this, and then we hit 3,000 by the end of March. That's 2024, and so it's now been 16 months since then. I think we're up over 11,000 now in terms of paid subscribers, and then in terms of free subscribers, I mean, we only had 4,000 free subscribers when we launched this. Like we doubled that almost immediately. And from there, it's been exponential is not the correct word, but it's been like very, very significant because basically in order to read our articles, you have to sign up. I think the other thing that we've learned though
Pause. Can you just remind us how much your annual subscription is?
It's $100 per year.
You guys can do the math. Sorry, continue.
And sometimes sales. The other thing is that it was almost a proof of concept for the types of things that people like to know about journalism. Like what I think for us, it was a really big moment of transparency where we're saying like, here's why we're doing this. Here's why it's important that we do this. And people really responded very well to that. And soon after that, we ended up launching a full text RSS feed, which was something that we actually had to build where our paid subscribers were getting our articles directly on RSS reader. We then explained how we did that and why we did that, and that led to quite a lot of people converting. And really, like anytime we do, and it's another platform that we own, by the way, is RSS. We can directly reach people. But we've learned that when we're very honest and transparent about both the business and like why we are doing things, people subscribe to support that. And so it really kind of changed our way of thinking in terms of like what we were doing, like how we were communicating with our readers.
So The Economist is a subscription model, and so we see video as very much kind of bolstering the package, I guess, that's offered to subscribers. Once upon a time, they would have just got the magazine, but now they get the magazine, they can get the app, they get access to podcasts, they get access to video. As I mentioned, we find that subscribers who can kind of consume all of these tend to resubscribe, which suggests that it's incredibly appealing to subscribers to be able to consume our journalism in different formats. You know, with our short form video, they can come to us and they can catch up on a story in a couple of minutes. They don't have to read anything. They can watch it, which might be appealing for some subscribers. And so, yeah, very much part of the kind of package that we offer to people, which is what makes it appealing.
And can you remind us as well how much the annual subscription is for The
And you're going to
Economist?
ask me that. I think the first year is £167. I'm going to do it in pounds.
Okay.
And then it goes up to 200 and something. I have to check that. But 240, I think. Yes, in the second year.
I think for us it's 12 euros every month, but we have two different kind of subscription. A basic one is just to access to El País, and a premium one that gives you the opportunity to also read Cinco Días, that it's our business newspaper, and also to read the replica of two of them. And right now we have an agreement with New York Times, so if you are a premium subscriber, you can also read New York Times.
Right. So you've all been having these strategies for at least a year or 18 months, right? But I imagine that the challenges in keeping audience on your platforms persist. So tell us about what your current challenges are and what is next in bringing more audiences to your own platforms and keeping them there.
Okay, I think one of our challenges is how to change the role of our social team. We have been talking about that before, because right now a social team can be focused on distribution, but neither in production, because they were mainly, at least in El País and I think in other media, they've been the first one producing video for social. But right now we have a big video department, so we need to rethink what we can do with our social teams, and they are really good at building community, and I think that has been their role, and also creating participation, asking for our readers, so that's good. Also, maybe I'm a little bit worried about Google Discover. I know it's not the same worry for everyone here, but at least in Spain, Google Discover is very, very strong. And Google has already said that they are going to change how Discover is going to work. And on one hand, I'm happy about that because there are a lot of media producing just for Google Discover. But on the other hand, if we are not going to be there, who is going to be there? In Spain, it's really, really popular. A lot of people get informed by Google Discover. So, and they have generated a habit of consumption. So I'm a little bit, I think it could be a big challenge, because a million of people in Spain use Google Discover. So if media are not going to be there, what is going to happen?
Yeah, we had talked earlier, and you had said that Google Discover is really particularly popular in Spain because most people have Android phones, right?
Yeah, that's it.
And so do you see Google Discover as like a main competitor with El País Express or El País in general?
It depends because, for example, for us, it's not so important. We are not so dependent, and as I said before, direct traffic is more important for us. But in Spain, there are a lot of strong media with teams, with dozens of journalists writing for the Google Discover. So there are a lot of people who every day consult the Google Discover, for example, in the morning, in the afternoon, because it's really easy. They just need to take their phones and to do swipe, and they say they are the news of the phone. And there are a lot of people who doesn't know who is the source of news. So I'm a little bit worried about that because if we are out of Google Discover as well, I think they are still getting informed by over there.
What about you, Jason? What's the next challenge for 404?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a similar challenge to what everyone else faces, which is the fracturing of social media and the sort of AI slop threat, the end of discoverability on the internet. I think that before we launched this, it was a very existential thing for us. Like, we wouldn't have had enough subscribers to keep the publication going. And now, of course, we want to continue growing and continue getting new email addresses and new subscribers and new people, expose new people to our work. But it's just like every single piece of reporting that we do, we want to make sure that it's going out everywhere and feeling like we're showing up authentically on Blue Sky, on Threads, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Reddit, on every platform. It's like all of these social media platforms have different audiences, different users, different vibes, different cultures, and figuring out how to share it in a way that feels authentic to those platforms is really important for like the top of our funnel. And I think that's the scary thing, is that like right now we're in a really, really great spot, but we still need to get people to see our stuff once before we can contact them directly, essentially. And so we still are playing like the social media rat race like everyone else. And I think it's getting really, really hard to do that. I write a lot about AI slop, and it's like all of these platforms that I'm on, it's like we're competing with not just misinformation, disinformation, people's short attention spans, things like that, but also, the fact that these accounts that we're competing against can publish thousands of videos in a day, and we can publish one because they're really time consuming. And as you said, like, you are doing really time consuming video, high quality stuff, but you're posting it out into a world that it's just really hard to find people.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that and kind of echo what you're saying. I think for us, we do publish on social media. I mean, social media is so important, as Jason was saying. It's how you get brand recognition. It's how you get your journalism out there. And I think for us, it's something we're constantly considering. What do we post on social media? What do we hold back for our subscribers? How much, essentially, are you giving away for free? And also, how do you make sure that your videos are tailored for each platform? I think it's so crucial. I mean, in the States, I think it's almost 50% of under 30s get their news from TikTok. If you're a news publisher and you're not on TikTok, then that's an entire cohort that you're not getting your journalism out to. So for us, it's totally vital, but it's definitely something that we're constantly considering. I think another challenge for us is also what do we film? Like, what videos do we make? There's so much that we could do. We have podcasts that we film now. We have reporters all over the world, and we're constantly, they're covering breaking news stories. They're in these places. We want to get their analysis, and that we have a finite amount of resources. So the question is, where do we put it? What do we make? So I think that's definitely a challenge. And I also think it's about kind of understanding our subscribers well. We're constantly checking kind of what is working, how do they want to consume our journalism, and how can we make our journalism easy for them to access and to consume. Yeah.
So I have one more question for you all, and then we'll go to audience questions. But what advice do you have for other news publishers that are beginning to make these efforts to bring audiences back to their own platforms, or for audience to start depending on their own owned platforms rather than on social media and elsewhere?
I think the most important thing is to gather data about your subscriber base and to use that data to really understand who it is who's consuming your product. That's something that we took very seriously, and I think it's not just kind of what people want to watch for our case, but also how they watch it. And so, yeah, that's something that we find very important. I also think, just really crucially, to be true to yourself as a brand. The Economist has a very distinct brand, and for us it was really important that we could reflect that in video. And don't lose sight of that. Don't kind of follow the clicks on social media. Make sure that you know kind of who you are and what you're making, and that everything reflects that.
I couldn't agree more with Anna. Yeah, and also because to know your audience, to know your readers, is to know what your purpose is. Why are you working for, or what is your final role as media? And also, in my case, I would like to say that it's very important to put all part of the company work together and to know what is the priority. All parts of the company need to be aligned, pursuing the same priority. And of course, sometimes it's very difficult. It's tough to work all together, but you need to create those spaces to put them all to work together, because of course, marketing and subscription and editorial, we are not always agree, but priorities need to be clear from top to bottom, and I think it's a very good way to create those meetings, those spaces with people with different areas working all together, knowing what other parts of company are working on, and that's my advice.
So I agree with both of you for publications like El País and The Economist, which have like really established brands. I mean, 100-year-old brands in some
institutions,
cases.
yeah.
I think my advice would be almost the exact opposite for much smaller publications, upstart publications, even pretty established publications that are not huge, which is, I think that journalists have been taught all throughout journalism school and things like this, that they have to remove themselves from the story, that they have to be this sort of voice from nowhere, and just the audience shouldn't know who is doing the story. And I think I think those days are over unless you already have a really established audience. I'm not saying that you should be biased or that you should, put your perspective in necessarily, but I think that publications really, really need to lean into the human behind the work and also be more transparent about why they're doing what they're doing and why they're trying to get someone onto their platform. I think that was a huge and very good lesson for us, was that our audience isn't stupid. They're very smart, actually, and they're on the same social media platforms that we're on all day, every day, and they're seeing, really divisive stuff that's designed, for engagement, and people screaming at them constantly. You scroll and someone else is screaming, and then you see AI, then you see something weird, and I think it's like you really have to try to stand out and be different from the other things that people see on social media. And if you don't have a really established brand, you need to explain why someone should trust you. And that's like a really hard thing to do in a vertical video in 60 seconds. But I think it's really critical that journalists sort of show their work as much as possible and explain like why they are doing what they're doing and why they need specific support from readers, because otherwise people are just going to keep scrolling and they'll see your content whenever you win the algorithmic lottery again.
I completely agree with that, and I think also with AI, it's even more important that you create a kind of human first, I guess, like sort of artisanal kind of product. I think. I mean, from the Economist perspective, The Economist Insider, I think, is part of that for us. These discussion shows are going to be sort of 45 minutes, and that's access to editors who, historically The Economist has not had bylines, so it's, we don't put names on our articles. All our articles are kind of written with the Economist voice, and so for us it was really important to, we're not necessarily creating these sort of personalities, but we want to show who the journalists are, who the editors are, who the people are who are having these discussions, and put these discussions to our subscribers so that they can see them. And I think in a world of AI where you don't know how it's been generated, that's even more crucial.
For us, it's been very helpful, the role of newsletters, even if the first touch with our readers is their inbox, but I could say it in our culture, because there, sometimes our journalists are not so open to be on camera. But they feel more free if they can write something in a newsletter. So to explain people why they are publishing something, or how do they took their exclusive, it's been more helpful than video, for example, but it's been more very powerful.
Okay, we have a few minutes for audience questions. We have
Thank you. I'm Erika Marzano from the Deutsche Welle, the German international broadcaster, and we are having this exact discussion right now. Although we are not a subscription model, we are public service media, so always available. However, our main views, reach, etc., come from social media. And something that is missing on our website currently is a comment section. Because social media, we have in our values that we want to have a healthy debate with our audiences, and that is not on our website. We are discussing whether to add it or not. So how do you have, I think the colleague from El País said that social media still a bit has this role of community making, so the community section there is important. But what if, do you have also this, or do you have community, comment sections on your website or something like that? Thank you.
We have comments, which I worked for a publication for a long time that didn't have comments, and we got rid of the comments because they were really toxic and they were really hard to moderate and they were full of spam and things like that. And I feel like it was the right decision at the time, but when it came time, that was during an era when you could get a lot of clicks on Facebook and Google, and it was really easy to build an audience. But then when people started sort of like falling into their specific niches and it became important to build a community, we had nothing to fall back on. And so we have comments now. Only paid subscribers can comment, so I think that's helped a lot on the moderation side of things. But I think it's really critical now that you have some sort of community, people who can evangelize for you. I think that makes a lot of journalists uncomfortable. It made us uncomfortable at first, but it's been really cool, and it's really cool to see readers argue with each other in a respectful way, like underneath our articles.
So we don't have a comment section on our website, on our app, but The Economist has had a letter page, I think, probably since it started being published. And so I think engagement with our subscribers is really important. Now they email, they don't, well, some of them probably do write letters, but mostly they email. But one of the things that we're going to have with Economist Insider is that people will be able to send in questions. There's going to be a Q&A section. So subscribers can send in questions, and then the editors will be able to discuss them on the show. And I think, as Jason said, it is really important, and it's a very useful way to get to know your subscribers.
Yeah, we also have comments for subscribers, but I have to say that the good conversation with readers are not in comments. Our social team sometimes publish a pool or they open the other discussion, because in comments, even with subscribers, the good conversation is not there. So they work so hard trying to propose some themes, or for example, they have a very healthy community in our books Instagram account. They take care a lot about publication, and they have it's not kind of reading club. No, it's not the same, but they have very healthy community there. So I guess that you can't control, even if you have a good control system of comments, but maybe you can improve other places, other communities, trying to have a more healthy community of readers.
Do we have another question?
Hello, my name is Marco. I'm a student and a freelance reporter. My question is specifically for Jason, because you mentioned about bias before. Does it mean that small emerging newsrooms need to publish more biased news in order to connect and be more human? And if yes, do you believe traditional publishing channels would even make sense at this point, or we should maybe go for different sort of channels?
Yeah, I mean, I think we try to incorporate how we did an article into the articles themselves very often, and then around like big moments where we're either launching some sort of new feature or we're changing something about the business, we do an article where we explain what we're doing, and then we try to do that also on every platform that we have, which gets very tiring. I mean, I do think that it's very critical that we have moved people to our own platform. I think we are going to continue publishing on social media because it remains a really important discovery platform for us. But now, honestly, most of our traffic comes from our newsletter and people like direct traffic, which I think is a very privileged and nice position that we're in now. The other thing that keeps me up at night, which I should have mentioned earlier, is like the idea that newsletters might get moved to a different inbox, or like the AIification of email, which is starting to happen but hasn't been an apocalypse yet. But I do think like email is an important platform, but we've also tried to really lean into RSS, lean into our direct website, and also the Fediverse, honestly. Like we're publishing onto Mastodon and Blue Sky sort of natively. I think that will become more and more important as these platforms grow.
Thank you.
And I think we have time for one more question.
Hi, Zach Toombs from Evident Media. Thanks so much for this talk. It's all really valuable ground that you've covered. How do you decide what doesn't go behind the paywall? I mean, is it all, do you see that as marketing and top of the funnel? Is it just this story is too important, we have to put it out from behind the paywall? What are those conversations like within the newsrooms?
Who wants to start?
We work a lot with the data team, and we have some special and our own metrics who show us what articles are better to transform readers to subscribers. So we have some patterns, of course, exclusive content on some big stories. But finally, at that moment, is an editorial decision. So we talk a lot with data, a lot. But finally, the homepage team, the editorial homepage team, take the decision.
We see our videos as sort of brand recognition, I guess. So we do post them on social media, and increasingly the platforms are allowing you to put links. I think TikTok recently allowed you to put a link so that comes up directly at the bottom of the video, and that was really important for us because it means that we can link through to an article that accompanies it, so we can drive people to our app. So we kind of see our social videos as kind of ambassadorial, I guess. But then I think the launch of Economist Insider is very important for us because that's going to be a subscriber only. It's a premium product. You will have to subscribe in order to watch it. And it sort of becomes a bit like a kind of flanking strategy. So we have our ambassadorial videos on social that kind of drive traffic to the app, but also drive kind of brand recognition. And then when you become a subscriber, you have access to these kind of in-depth, longer videos.
Most of our stuff is not behind a paywall to start, and we do a lot of Freedom of Information Act reporting where we're getting public records from governments in the United States, and because those are public records, we've decided to never put any of that stuff behind a paywall. We also have a couple things that are always paywalled, like we do something called Behind the Blog on Fridays, where we explain how we did the reporting of that week. We see that as like a behind-the-scenes thing, and we always put that behind a paywall. Otherwise, we do it manually, and honestly, we try to leave as much not behind a paywall as possible because we do want people to read our articles, but usually after a week or two, we will put things behind a paywall. Just, we found that it works that way. But no like hard and fast rules for us.
That's all the time we have, but thank you so much, everybody, for coming to our session, and thank you for IMED for having us.